Hi, my Live Arts family. My name is Darryl. I'm the box office manager here at Live Arts. My pronouns are he and him. And I'd like to welcome you to our October Artist Studio visit. Welcome. Our artist tonight is the amazing, talented Sarah Boyts Yoder. And before we have our talk with her or visit to her studio, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Elizabeth and Joe Lavaca, and our October sponsors, Alexander Nixon. Our Pay What You Can sponsors are Allison Partners, Strout Construction, Latitude 38, Ting, and our media sponsor is WTJU 91.1. Thank you. And also I'd like to give a shout out to Bank of America for sponsoring us, Charlottesville Area Community Foundation, Jane E. Berkeley, the Boughton Foundation, and the Bowerwork Foundation, and also the Virginia Commission for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. Thank you so much for supporting us. And if you'd like to support us, please visit livearts.org and get your season pass today. This is our last month to push season tickets, so make sure you have yours. And also, if you like what you see tonight and you want to make a Pay What You Can contribution, please visit our website at livearts.org, and you can give us also a contribution, and that is also Pay What You Can. So here we go for our talk with the talented, amazing, lovely Sarah Boyts Yoder. So Sarah Boyts Yoder is a painter based in Charlottesville, Virginia. She received an NFA in painting from James Madison University in 2006. Her work has been featured in numerous publications and expositions throughout the U.S., including the Virginia Museum of Contemporary Art. In 2014, she was awarded a professional fellowship in painting from the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. Sarah Boyts Yoder has been a fellow at the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts and has been awarded an artistic residency at 100 West Corsicana in Corsicana, Texas, her home state, Texas girl, each year since 2017. She was also a finalist and semi-finalist from the Bethesda Painting Award and the Triwick Art Prize in 2019. She had her first international exhibit in Sydney, Australia, and was invited to speak at the Charlottesville chapter of Creative Mornings. Sarah Boyts Yoder is represented by Page Bond Gallery in Richmond, Virginia, and by Show and Tell Arts and Design in Charleston, South Carolina. So let's give a round of applause for the amazing, talented artist, Sarah Boyts Yoder, and thank you for joining me here at Live Arts for our at-home studio visit. You're amazing.
Thanks, Darryl.
So the last time I've seen you was actually here at Live Arts for your birthday,
Yes.
and then the whole world just fell apart after that.
Yes.
So you're responsible for all that.
I'm sorry. I actually just found a video clip on my laptop of that party that night, and I almost was in tears because it felt like such a crazy thing compared to where we all have been now, like all alone and huddled up and not around crowds. So it was like, I said that at the party, I was like, this is my dream come true. And I looked at that video and I was like, that's still my dream come true.
Yeah,
back there.
Your birthday was February 21st.
Yeah, 24th.
24th, sorry. And I remember that night so well because we were just having so much fun. Yes. And you have a secret talent you want to share with everyone?
Oh, I'm a salsa dancer.
You're an amazing salsa dancer. So I was blown away by your skills there.
That's the secret talent that I'm most proud of, and that I really miss so much. All of it has to do with that, like, creative energy, like the group energy with so many people that probably all of us are missing. Yes. That's like a big slice of the world that, you know, it's a big void when we can't all be together.
Yes. And your friends and your family.
Yes.
So and have you been able
to shout out?
Yes.
The Charlottesville Salsa Club. It's one of the longest in Virginia. I think it's the longest running like social weekly salsa dance party. And they've had to be on hiatus like everybody, but usually there's a social dance and lessons beforehand on Wednesdays and Sundays, usually at Ix. But you can follow them on Facebook and keep up to date and join the community because it's a beautiful one.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. So are you practicing at home right now? Or are you dancing at home by yourself?
By myself. A little. It's almost too painful to listen to the music because, you know, it makes you want to really move and it's hard to do by yourself.
So I see some of your artwork behind you. So is this your studio? Is this where you all the creation come from the studio and your design?
So I usually have a bigger studio, and I still have it at the Beck Cohen building, which is downtown, sort of next door to the pavilion. Yes. And bigger. But when the world shut down so suddenly, I like scooped all my paints into a big garbage bag and brought them home. So right now I'm in my backyard, and this is a garden shed that luckily my father-in-law, he is a musician, and he outfitted to be his music practice studio, and he doesn't live here anymore. But this was sort of like a ready-made like micro studio for me. So it's really tiny, but it made a lot of sense. And I've been painting here for, since March. It's really good.
Nice, nice. And I think I hear some chicken in the background also.
Yeah, please. If you hear any chicken squawking, we have 3 chickens, and we got them as little baby chicks, and now they're big enough that they can lay eggs, and chickens really squawk and freak out when they lay eggs. I think the other ones are like squawking for the one that's laying the egg. And so if you hear that,
Very along, like, yay. And their names. Do you have names for the chicken, or do this chicken?
I'd have to ask my kids. I don't know if this round has names. We've had like 3 or 4 rounds of chickens, and they each round has sort of like expired in a sad way previously. Mm-hmm. So maybe the kids are too old, and we're past the point of feeling.
You're feeling like, you know,
sentimental.
Like by. Oops. So let's ask you a couple of questions about your art.
Yes.
First question is going to be, so tell me about your work, and do it fit into any specific style or category you feel?
Yeah, I am a painter.
Mm-hmm.
Say like painter with a capital P.
Mm-hmm.
I think artists would understand that. But I make abstract-ish, really colorful paintings, and I work on paper and canvas and wood, and I collage. I cut paper up all the time. Somebody asked me once what was my most valuable studio tool, and I said my scissors. So I sort of work on a lot of things multiple times, and I say abstract-ish because I also have developed this little vocabulary of 8 or 9 symbols that I repeat all the time that mm-hmm. I've kind of assigned meanings to. And so if you look at the work, sometimes they're looser and sometimes they're really mm-hmm. specific, but I'm always working with these. Are
they always found in your work, in your piece, or just like little sections of it, or does it come in a little story in it, and both again?
Yeah, they come and go, and like again, sometimes they get so loose that maybe they're not recognizable to somebody who just came upon the work. But mm-hmm. If you looked at the work in a group, you could see that there were these like characters that are always sort of like floating above or underneath. I'll show you something really fast. I can tell you that. I made this book at an artist residency, the one you mentioned from Texas, 100 West, Corsicana.
Uh-huh.
It's actually like a kid's board book.
Oh, wow.
I've shown this to people before in the studio, but I made it a few years ago when I was there. But it says key, like a key or a legend to a map. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I imagine if you came to like an exhibition of my paintings, this would be there and you could pick it up and you could like look at it and it would tell you what the symbols mean. Like there's not that many pages. This one's the guide, mm-hmm. The traveler, the joker.
Oh, that's so amazing.
There's the watcher. I have that all the time.
And you use the eye a lot too. Like,
I love it. Yeah, so to me, that's like a witness or a watcher. Mm-hmm. You know, it could either be like and then it turns into the bear. Or
oh my God.
Like a container kind of, but sometimes people think it looks like a bumblebee, which I really also like when people find different things.
And I like the key is kind of like a questing, mm-hmm. you know, like a search.
Yeah.
And kind of put all the puzzles together. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So why do you make art?
Well, it started out as like the thing I was good at school. Mm-hmm. I was, you know, in elementary school, middle school, and I luckily had some really good art teachers who encouraged me. Mm-hmm. And I just loved it. I loved art class. Yes. And my teachers were encouraging, and I felt like I was good at it. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I got a little farther in college, and you know, I really had this feeling that's what I wanted to do. And now, like as a more adult, mature person, I recognize what I get out of the work and making it. And some of it has to do with like owning my own space and having this like separate like landscape that I've kind of cultivated and that I'm creating things out of. And the ability to like make something new that didn't exist in the world before, mm-hmm. and to like sometimes synthesize mm-hmm. Experiences that I have or that I see other people having or feelings. It's a generative thing. And two, I really hold dear anytime anyone tells me that they see the work and it sounds sort of cliche, but it's really true. And it makes them feel happy. It makes them feel excited, or the colors are soothing, or the colors are fun. That stuff really matters to me, because I think that's one of the things that art is for. And so that's also a big part of why I make it. It's for myself, but it's also for you, you know?
Sparking joy that you get.
Yes.
And there's always a story and history with that.
Yes. Yeah.
You're from Texas?
Yes.
So has that affected your art, being from Texas, moving to Virginia? In a way, you think has just, this, the landscape is so different from Texas to Virginia, and has it affected your artwork also?
Yeah, in fact, it's, as you said, the landscape is different. I remember the first time that I came to Virginia, I was, 20, and I had never before seen so many trees so close to the road.
Uh-huh.
And I thought I was searching for the horizon line. I was like, where's the horizon? I can't understand where I am in space. And I know people who come from like the East Coast, somebody from Virginia going to Texas, is like, the horizon's everywhere. I don't know where I am in space. There's nothing to orient me.
Mm-hmm.
But that idea of spaciousness, like if you look at my work, and even some of what's behind me, but
I'm looking at it now.
So much of it, you'll see that I often like cut things or divide the space like 3/4 of the way down.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just this urge that I was having so long. And then finally I was like, that's the horizon line. It's like, it's a landscape kind of.
Uh-huh.
I think there's that sense of spaciousness, especially in the bigger paintings, which I haven't really been able to do right now in this small studio. There's a sense of like things that are floating on top, and there's something underneath coming up. And that's the biggest way. And I sense that when I do this residency, which I've been lucky enough to do for 3 years in a row, is to go and make work at this place. And it's wide open there, and I can sense that spaciousness in the work.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any ritual centered around the art that you create?
Well, especially since relocating here into this little space, I found myself every time I come in, this is also speaking of like Texas and the Southwest, because I also spent a lot of time in New Mexico, but
Mm-hmm.
the smells, like that pinon wood smoke smell, like that, it smells so good to me. And so since I've been in this studio, every time I come in, I like light a little incense, and like I do that every time, and then like sit down, and then I always have like coffee or water or something, and like sit down and take a drink and look up whatever podcast or music I want to listen to. But I like that a lot. And then other than that, it's really just about like staying in the space, and almost, you could call it different things, but sometimes it just looks like puttering around and working on a lot of things at once, so that I can sort of always be shifting from, here and there, and the stuff moves forward on its own in a more real way when I'm doing that.
Yes. And what are the roles of inspiration is in your creative process, and where do you search for this inspiration?
One of my things is that I think it's all around us all the time, and I when I gave the talk at Creative Mornings, I kind of talked about this idea, but it's everywhere if you're willing to accept it wherever you see it or find it. Yeah. And that means that if something, it means you can't make a hierarchy of what's important or what matters or what's allowed to move you or move your work. So if, for a little while, I was like seeing these children's cartoons, like we all know Peppa Pig and things like that when the kids were really little. And there was a couple of the shapes in the animation that just like turned my brain on, and I started doing them in the work.
Yes.
Or maybe a song, and it can be like an awesome pop song, like not everything has to be so serious be so serious.
Does it just hit you when you see it, or the just creation there, or just kind of sparks like you just know it, or is it kind of like, is it always back there somewhere?
That's one of the advantages of being open to anything,
Mm-hmm.
is that sometimes it'll hit you right in the face, and it's so obvious, and you can't wait to go draw it or paint it or cut it out and use it.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times it totally sneaks up on you, and you end up putting something in the work without thinking, and then looking back and realizing that's exactly that window that I saw, or
Oh, wow, yes.
you know, and that's, I think, what's the exciting part. And probably a lot of artists will tell you, being surprised, that's a big thing that I hope for in the process. And when I can tell something's working, is feeling that sense of surprise that, oh, there's it's like a recognition.
Yes, yes. And can you tell me about a piece of art that's changed you once you experienced it in the past? Or
I have two, and
okay.
I thought about this, and this answer came up almost immediately, and I saw them both at the same time, pretty much. So I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, and they had a really amazing, luckily, modern art museum there. And I was also lucky enough in high school, they had this program where like they would select kids from the city schools, and you could go and do this, like, I don't know, like it's like an apprenticeship, like a program. And so for like a month or two, every Saturday, you would go to the museum and kind of like sort of like take some classes, but also just be exposed to the museum and like some of the behind the scenes classrooms. And I don't think I had ever been into that museum or an art museum before I had done that. And it really changed things. And so there was one of the paintings is in their permanent collection, and I just saw it when I was there in August. And it's a Joan Mitchell painting from 1961, and it's untitled, but you can look it up in their permanent collections. But she was a female abstract expressionist painter who was working in the 60s, and her work is incredible, and it's really huge, and the paint is thick and it's wild, and it's really brushy. And I remember thinking that, seeing that, and it's completely non-objective, so it really is, there's no shapes to hold on to, it's just the color and the energy of her brush strokes and the application. And I remember thinking, like, that's feeling, like paint as feeling. And it blew me away. And it also had magenta in it. There was some purple and magenta, which I loved. And the second piece was there as part of an exhibition, I assume, but it was by the British artist Chris O'Philly. And he's a Black artist. And he was famous because he had one of these huge Madonna, like Virgin Mary paintings that got like banned from the Tate or something, because he was incorporating like elephant dung into the paint, and there were sections, and like everybody freaked out because they were like, it's sacrilegious. And I think he had also painted the Virgin Mary as Black. And again, it was a beautiful painting, and I was too young to appreciate all of that like rich context. But I remember looking at it up close and seeing this surface that was like kind of wild, and there was, like the dung, actually there was like paint like coming off, and it was so three-dimensional. And I was like, wow, you can do whatever you want,
Yes,
it was like
it's like a different language speaking to you also.
Totally.
Although the kids were like running around, I can just see you just like staring at it.
Right.
At the Virgin Mary, like, oh.
I was basking.
So in your deepest fantasy, what do you feel the role of art should be in society?
It's such a good question. And I just watched the trailer there's an amazing program on PBS called Art 21, Art in the 21st Century. And their second season just came out, or the second episode in the newest season just came out, and it's set in Beijing. So there are all these Chinese artists, and just in the trailer alone, the artist says that reality is so black and white. You're either for something or against something else, but that artists are looking for a different path. And in the best world, in the best way, I think that's what art offers all of us. You know, there's so many ways that the world insists on separateness and inevitability. And I think art shows us that there's other ways, that it doesn't have to be the way the world presents as it is, or that the world says that it has to be. And some of that's about imagination, and a lot of it is about, I think, being able to tolerate or enjoy the in-between space that exists, that sort of middle ground. And there's a lot to be said about people who can like exist in the middle ground and keep it free, you know, keeping this and that out. And that middle place is such a fertile, positive, you know, space for everybody. And I think that's the role that artists have, is to, you know, if you read enough artist statements, so many artists say, I'm interested in the space between beautiful and awkward, between dark and light, between good and bad, between the easy and the difficult. And they're searching for it, or that's how their work orients itself, and how I think they can bring to all of us. And a lot of that is also about hope, you know.
And then how do you feel like how it plays now in society, art right now?
It's everything right now. I feel like it's pretty dark, and that everything is black or white, meaning like you're either for this or you're against that, you know. And actually, I just the artist Vanessa German, who had a beautiful show last year at the Fralin.
Yes.
Follow her on Instagram.
Amazing. Oh my God, I was blown away.
Amazing. And she just posted a written piece of hers on Instagram the day after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. And I think it was probably the evening that the news came out that none of the officers, except for one and tangentially, were charged in Breonna Taylor's murder. And she wrote this piece that was Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Breonna Taylor speaking to each other.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, on the other side of the veil, and other people were there too. Elijah McClain was there. And it was really moving, and it was, I was crying, and it was just powerful and hopeful, because she imagined this other world in another space and gave it to us. And it felt like such light and hope, despite the ongoing, I think, darkness that exists, and that can often feel like it's overwhelming.
Yes.
So.
And how has this moment that this country and the world experience informed your art?
Well, if you look back at the work I was making right before everything shut down, it looks a lot different than what I've been making in the last 6 months. And there's this example right behind me. You look at my website or Instagram, or whatever, you'll see there's all of these patterns of like stripes that are like moving. And at the very beginning, I was texting with a friend of mine, and again, this came out of a very like simple kind of thing. And we were saying goodbye, like signing off. And I just said to her, like, I love you, and I'm sending you all of this like healthy love and energy and vibes. You know, we all say that, I think, to each other all the time. But it clicked in my brain, and I thought, I'm going to make paintings that are those vibes.
Yes.
Or that are like an illustration of that energy. So in a way, these paintings are more abstract and more literal than work I've ever made before. So they look that way. Sound waves, light waves, energy waves have rhythm. Even if you look at objects, like, think about when you slice a geode, and there's like the crystals in the middle, and then there are these layers, you know, or if you cut a tree down and you see the rings. So they're kind of like protective, but also like emanating and moving. And that's what I imagine.
You feel that energy in them.
Yeah, yeah.
The story and the age is, you know, of everything.
Yes.
The rings.
So I love that. And you know, the bigger paintings that are like, they're more like these sort of explorative journeys. Mm-hmm. And I talked about them before as almost like the process sometimes is like an archaeologist that's like excavating a site and like being really careful and trying to get down to find the thing that's buried underneath. And yet I'm not digging down into a surface, literally. I'm taking stuff and putting it on a surface, actually. So there's that push and pull. And though that takes a lot of time and space mentally and physically, which I just don't have as much anymore, and emotionally, which I don't have as much anymore. And so these paintings are like this they're kind of vulnerable in a way, because they're this very like earnest wish from me to like give you the energy that I want people to have and feel. Yes. But I also get a lot making them, because I do them on the floor, and they are with a specific brush, and the paint has to be a specific viscosity so that it can flow. And I really I imagine myself if I was looking in doing this, and I'm on the ground on my knees, and I'm just like huddled over this thing, and I'm just painting these stripes, you know, because everything else feels crazy. And I've always loved color so much, and in a way these give me a chance to really like push and explore like what color can do. Mm-hmm. And so they're not taped off or anything. If you look up close, like I'll show you one. I change my mind all the time, and so I'm always changing like what the color schemes are. So you can kind of see underneath some that it changes depending on how much I leave behind underneath. And that idea of surprise that I talked about before, I love in these works, because when I look at them, you know, I'm down so close doing these stripy wave, energetic, sensual kind of things. And when I step back, I'm always surprised, because they seem to like, if I get it right, move by themselves. Yes. Yeah. And reverberate. That's the word.
So can you tell me about what you're working on right now in your creative process? And I know it kind of shapes what you're doing right now in the environment right now that we're in.
I don't have them all here because I had to make room, mm-hmm. but I have, I think, 8 or 9 pieces like these in that series of like the frequencies, I like to call them. Mm-hmm. And then I go back and forth working on, this camera's going to move for 1 second, on paintings that are from like magazines.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
The little ones. And then also I have these, again, I find these things, but they're like at the thrift store, like little kids, like board books. Mm-hmm. Are really cool. And so I'll sometimes just tear those out and like make a piece, but it's actually
oh my God, that's brilliant. That's so brilliant.
They're sort of funny because the edges are rounded and they have like a little bit of life already, and so then I sort of see what I can turn it into, make something else. And you know, I have more of these. You can see kind of behind me.
Are they like gathered throughout your studio there? Oh wow. Yes, you are an artist.
Those are kind of, they're also the book pages, but I kind of have rounded the tops kind of like this, and they become like little objects. Like I really love flatness. I'm not a sculptor at all, but I like thinking of them as if they were little doors or little charmed objects, or little portals or badges that, you know, you could take with you and put somewhere. And so there's this sense always of like inspiration or joy like around you all the time.
And there's joy in front and there's joy in back. There's like a little surprise also, like the key, like the quest key also. So
yeah.
And what is your favorite form of artistic expression to consume and experience also?
It's as much as I love painting, though, I love music and dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually don't listen to that much music when I work. I do, but I love dancing and movement so much, and I'm sure you can relate.
Yes.
But there's something about, you know, in a lot of different ways, talking about, like, I always go like this, like alignment. And I feel like when moving and dancing with music, especially with other people, like so many things get a chance to become aligned, you know, and create a new thing. You know, it's like a conversation, and that something new comes out of all the time. So it's like creative and generative and joyful and sharing. And that's definitely what I would say.
Yes, yes. And so you say you don't like listening to music when you create art. Are you listening to podcasts, or is it completely quiet? Is it chick in the background, or what do you do?
It goes back and forth. So I do listen to like the news and some podcasts, but then I will put music on. I pay so much attention to the music that it sometimes does distract me, because I'm like fast forwarding the song or whatever. But there's this really great, I'm going to look it up and tell you, this really great album that I've been listening to that I just found out about, and it's called The Room. And all the songs are good. It's like Ricky Reed is the artist and the producer, but it's got all these people on it.
What kind of music is it?
It's like, it's a mix of like hip hop, funk, R&B, some soul. Leon Bridges has a song on there. Let's see, Terrace Martin, who is amazing and whose work I really love. He's like kind of another like jazz, but R&B guy too is on there. Anyway, it's called The Room, Ricky Reed, and that's been on. It flows so good and it grooves. So
nice. You want to talk a little bit about your quarantine studio work that you currently?
Yeah. So one of the, I think probably a lot of art that I've talked to, and I mean, you would probably associate or relate to this too, but you know, so many of these sort of like foundational spaces and platforms that were in the real physical world are sort of gone because of, you know, we can't gather and be together, and we have to stay apart. So I don't have anything I'm working on for any like exhibitions coming up right now, but I do have the work, you know, that I've been making, and I found that it's sort of divided itself into like 3 groups. So the ones like this, that I was calling those like frequencies, and I had some cute names for it because I just redid my website. I showed you the one that was like the flower, looked like the flower, and those are, oh yeah, so these are frequencies and reverberations, and these are flowers and what I call flyers.
So fun. They look like legs to me, like chicken legs.
Yeah. That's the name of the game. It's always something. Here's the clear one. So this is like a symbol that kind of came out. And this one, to me, I call it a flyer because sometimes they look like a bird. If you were laying down, it looks like a bird, but they're like another symbol. And then the ones I was pointing out down here, I call those portals or protectors. So that's sort of naturally the way they've sort of like divided themselves. And I'm just like, I feel like all I can do is work, you know, and you know, make something and get it out there and share. So
it's all about creating. It's always every day.
It's a good antidote to a lot.
So this is a silly question. So what is your favorite off-hour or alcoholic beverage?
Tequila.
Oh, tequila. Okay. And what artist, living or dead, would you like to have a drink with, or just tequila with?
Probably Louise Bourgeois.
Oh, who's Louise Bourgeois? Just for, you know, I know, but everybody else may not know.
She is an artist who had a long, long life. She was a painter, a sculptor. She was one of these fierce women who was making work, you know, in the face of like a lot of BS. But she's so prolific, and she is so. There's an episode of, you can find her everywhere, but there's an episode of her on Art 21, and she was just so bold and unapologetic. And I see new work of hers all the time, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know she did prints. I didn't know she made little tiny ink drawings. I guess I knew she made giant like bronze sculptures and paintings, and she just like did the gamut of things. But her voice was so strong, and it really inspires me to think like, you know, you want to keep the voice alive in your head that's like, I can do whatever I want. You know, and when I look at her work and I see the little bits of her that I've seen in interviews and stuff, she seems to embody that, and I would love to ask her advice. And she worked until she was very, very old, and it was all so good.
And still creating of that, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
So what would you say to a young person who is considering a career in the arts?
I would say that it adds so much to your life, and that if you're thinking about it, go find other artists who are older than you and talk to them and ask them what their path was like, and knowing that it doesn't have to look exactly like theirs, but you should always seek out other artists and creative people and ask them, you know, for advice. And also know that an artistic life is a full one, and it's up and down, but it also hinges on having I don't want to say regular life, but a fullness. It can add a fullness to your life. I think it's, you know, in terms of in relationships and traveling and reading, it's not all just one thing, but it makes everything so much richer.
Yes.
And it gives an agency to yourself and to other people. And it's important. It matters that there are people out there who are creating and making work and, you know, taking up that space, because there's a lot of people taking up space that hurts. It hurts people. And so I think that's the best you could do.
Yes. And another very important question my audience would like to know: what's your favorite type of peanut butter?
Jif natural, creamy.
Oh, smooth.
Yes.
No, I'm a chunky boy. Don't ask why.
I mean, it's sort of contextual. That's why I put potato chips in my sandwich.
See, I like to mix it up with ice cream. It's so bizarre, so good. And your first celebrity crush?
Ralph Macchio in The Karate Kid.
Oh, are you watching the new Karate Kid?
No.
On Netflix? I think there's a new.
Ralph Macchio in it?
I think he's in it, but you might not want to watch it.
I don't want to watch it. I only want Ralph Macchio as like a 13-year-old.
And your most recent celebrity crush?
Anthony Porowski from Queer Eye.
Oh, Anthony. Oh, yes. I have his cookbook.
Me too.
I haven't looked at it yet.
Look at it. It's got a lot of great photos of him.
Yes. And what television show are you binging on recently?
We just finished watching this like kind of dark show called Trapped, and it's like
I don't know this.
It's like a BBC like crime mystery show, but it's set in Iceland, and there's 2 seasons, so you can go through it.
You're speaking my language here.
Yeah, I know. We just finished binge watching that, and then the next thing that I want to.
What platform is that?
Prime.
Prime. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then I'm gonna try to get on my binge train with. I'm late to the game, but with Pose.
Oh, a pose is excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
You're enjoying
Okay.
that a lot. And what is your guilty pleasure other than television?
I this is so I love Pinterest, and I was like scrolling one time, and I saw this quote, and it was from Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and it was like, there are no guilty pleasures. If you like something, just like it. So my guilty pleasure is scrolling on Pinterest.
Yes, he's a Virginia boy. He's like a Northern Virginia boy, so
yeah,
homeboy. And final question for the evening: what's your plans for the weekend?
Ooh. Well, my mind is pretty blank. I just had a pretty good weekend because my husband took our kids camping, so I had it to myself.
Nice.
So I love getting out and shopping. So anytime, like weekends are good for hitting thrift shops, like twice as nice. I have to shout out to them. And I just got something at Low Vintage yesterday.
Nice.
Arsenic and Old Lace is amazing.
Oh, wonderful. You're old school. I love it. Recycle, reuse, right?
Yes.
So, do you have a Pinterest account, by the way?
Yeah, it's just my name. It's Sarah Boyts Yoder. SARAHBOYTSYODER.
Great. And what's your website again, so people can find you and check out your amazing art?
Same thing. It's www.sarahboytsyoder.com, and that's also my Instagram. So it's just my name.
Well, I want to thank you so much. I think you're amazing. Hang in there and create some beautiful, amazing art during this troublesome, wonderful, dark, but brilliant time that we're in. Because I think darkness brings great art also. Yeah. So I give you love and permission to create. Thank you for joining me. At my art. Well, have a good night. Thank you so much. And take care. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Hi, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. You're amazing. Really enjoyed this conversation with you this evening. If you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube Live Arts channel. We're trying to reach 100 subscribers by the end of October, and make sure you like and share that also. Coming up later on in the month, we have radio plays, which is going to be taken over by Guerrilla Theater. Lost Home, Win Home by our own development director, Shelby Marie Edwards. She directed this, and she's acting in this one-woman show that's coming up also in October. We have Coffee House, which is going to be also taken over by the Four County Players. They're doing a takeover for that. And just in time for Halloween, we have a Foundry Makers program, and we're going to be making masks for you guys, or you can make a mask with us. And also, we have a major fundraiser coming up, a very spooky social distance Halloween special that's coming up at the end of October. Want to support us? It's still time to get your season pass today. Like what you see, please go to our Live Arts page and make a pay what you can contribution. And as always, our building is closed, but our hearts and our minds are always open. Thanks for joining me. See you in November. Bye-bye.